What up, everybody? Welcome to Philly with John Marks right here on PHLY. As always, presented by Bet Parks. Get to the Bet Parks app right now and get the Eagles minus 7.5. That line remains constant on Sunday, which we'll talk about coming up in a second. The return of Doug Pederson. It's pretty interesting. Nick Sirianni is Doug Pederson. Doug Pederson is Nick Sirianni. So hang on a second. JP's with me this morning. He was doing postgame Flyers last night. Flyers with a big win. We'll get to it in headlines. That's in about 10 minutes. Chris Franklin of NJ.com, my old buddy, he's going to join us about 25 minutes from now. So we'll have you covered for the game on Sunday. We have locks. We have a lot of other nonsense going on. As you can see, I'm in my home studio today. I was just on the piano a couple minutes ago. I was playing JP some soothing music because he was up late. So I was on the piano. I'm in my living room. Today is a work from home day, in large part because my children don't have school. Yes, and it's a holiday. It's not an in-service day. I believe it's called Diwali. Is what it is. Diwali. This is all news to me, but they're off today. So right when I get done at 9 o'clock live, I got to jump upstairs and I got to grab all three of them. And then it's election day on Tuesday. So they have off on Friday and they have off on Tuesday. So I'll probably be working from the living room on Tuesday. And this is not the same living room that Sunny Hill works from, by the way. So there you go. What does JP know about the Wally? Because when I was in school, you got off for Columbus Day. Now they don't recognize Columbus Day, and the Italian people get mad because of Columbus Day. What is it's an Indian holiday, JP?
This is actually new to me. My friend brought it up to me as well, but it is an Indian holiday. I don't know the crux of it or point of celebration. But listen, I have plenty of Indian friends, so listen, whatever they want to celebrate, I'm all here for it. We support.
Me too. When I grew up, I don't know if there was any South Asian or a lot of South Asian people that were in our community. So
Right.
You're not going to celebrate a holiday that, that no one in your district or whatever. But now my neighborhood, really it has become a melting pot, which is awesome.
Growing up in Cherry Hill, we had a big Jewish population. So we would get off like Passover and Rosh Hashanah and all that type of stuff.
As do we. Yes, there's more holidays. And that's why we start in like the middle of August, because there's so many freaking holidays that the kids have that they have to start early. So
yeah, that was my excuse to play video games late at night, John. So on a school night.
Happy Diwali to everybody out there. Apparently, according to Google, it runs until 8:46 a.m. So it's 6:22 a.m. to yesterday to 8:46 a.m. I don't know why it's that. It's the Festival of Lights.
Oh, okay.
Hindu Festival of Lights. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that. Well, K-Red's boss already told him he had to go to work today, so someone still have to work today. I get it, guys.
Well, all you have to do is say, "Hey, I celebrate Diwali." What are you talking about?
There you go.
Were you an Office fan? He said that there was an Office fan on an Office episode on Diwali.
You know what? When Office was at its peak, I was a little too young. I didn't really care for those type of shows. Now that I'm an adult, I do have an appreciation for a show like The Office. And now I've watched a couple episodes here and there, but I definitely need to binge and go deep into an Office dive.
So you haven't went back and watched the whole catalog? I wasn't too young for The Office. I just never I knew.
Never got into it.
Yeah, people love them. It's one of those shows that when people love it, they love it.
Oh, yeah.
And they know everything about every episode. There's a couple radio hosts that I listen to around the country that any opportunity to bring up a something from The Office as it relates to whatever else it's done. Bringing up The Office. You know what? That's a great idea. I got to binge something. I just watched the entire catalog of Cheers, which was
I watched it
growing up.
I want to watch that.
Oh, dude, it's laugh out loud comedy. It's as funny as I remember it. Really, really funny. And it's filmed before a live studio audience, which they don't do anymore.
That's right. That is right. Just the premise of it. It's surrounded by a bar in Boston, no?
Yes.
And
it's the characters in the bar. Sam Malone, who was the owner, and then he sold it, and then he was the bartender, and then he got it back. Oh man, no, it's an all-time show. And I've also watched, I haven't watched it from start to beginning, so I don't really think you need to do start to beginning, but the Golden Girls, and Jamie Lynch will back me up on this.
So I hear.
The Golden Girls it's not an all-time show at all, but it still makes me laugh out loud. I will watch. It's on one of those bad cable stations. So when I do
TV
dishes,
Land.
yeah, no, it's not even on. It's even worse.
Are they
It's
still
even
alive?
worse.
TV Land.
Yeah. No, it's like Antenna TV.
Okay.
There's a couple of just on regular cable. There's a couple of stations that play all these 70s, 80s, and 90s shows. But if you go on Roku, you can literally find a station there's Cops TV in Espanol.
Oh, there we go.
On Roku. So we have a channel on Roku PHLY, right? So does everybody else.
There we go.
Yeah. So Golden Girls laugh out loud comedy. I've watched WKRP in Cincinnati, which is, like I remember it as a young kid, but being somebody that's wanted to be on the radio since I was probably 5 years old, watching that show today is hilarious. So again, I've watched that from start to finish. So what I do is I do the dishes. My routine is you get the kids to bed, and then they're like, Daddy. So now I got to go back up, and I'm rocking the baby, and I'm reading a book to the other kids. So finally at like 9:00, when it's like the hour-long bedtime routine is over with, I come back downstairs, and I got my phone. And if there's not a game going on, a lot of times I'm going Golden Girls, and I put the AirPods in, and I'm going Golden Girls up on the windowsill as I do all the dishes. And I laugh out loud when I watch it. It's amazing.
My wife's the same way, but it's listen. Those times, those are times for yourself. You're trying to get in the groove of things, right? Trying to knock out some dishes or cooking or whatever.
Decompress from the maniac kids and everything that happened during the day. All right. Well, listen, we got to talk some sports here.
Let's do
it. So let me do it here, and then we'll get back in the headlines coming up in a second. But it's funny. I was thinking about Doug Pederson coming back. Right. It's like, all right, it's not the first time he's back to Philly, but he's also a Super Bowl winning coach. Doug Pederson won a Super Bowl and made a lot of big decisions in the Super Bowl to win one of the best games ever in the Super Bowl and to bring Philadelphia their first championship or their first Super Bowl ever. And he was kind of like then gone. It was really weird, right? So remember when they hired Doug? They were interviewing everybody, and they hired Doug Pederson, or they interviewed Doug Pederson, and they were so impressed with the interview, they immediately started calling everybody else. They called Tom Coughlin, they interviewed him, and that was a bad move, or wouldn't have been a good idea. So they're like, oh, we don't want him. But they ended up going back to Doug, probably on the recommendation of Andy Reid, and said, hey, hire him. And right away, he was getting killed. He was a dummy. He was a dope. He's never called plays. He doesn't know what he's doing. I remember doing a show during his first year thinking, or a lot of people were saying, and this just isn't fan stuff, there's a lot of questions whether he was going to make it past 1 year. Mm-hmm. And then the team kind of, they rallied towards the end of the year. And then 2017 happened, and they won the Super Bowl. And now he was a genius again. It's like, oh, big balls, Doug, going forward on fourth down, making this call, making that call, right? And then, like the following year, make the playoffs, losing the divisional round. Following year, losing the playoffs. Carson Wentz is injured, and then he's done. The following year is a total disaster, and he's done. So he goes from being an idiot to the smartest guy in the world to being dumb again, right? And now he's in Jacksonville. I don't think he makes it past this year. Look at Nick Sirianni for a second. The Eagles were like, who the hell are we going to hire for this head coaching job? They plucked Nick Sirianni for an interview. He's on vacation with his family. He doesn't have any clothes to interview. He's got to go to Ross or TJ Maxx to get a suit off the rack to have the interview with Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman. He gets the job. And the first press conference, oh my God, this guy is in way over his head. Deer in the headlights. We know it. We know the press conference. And he wasn't just ripped locally. He was a laughingstock across media, across the NFL. And then look what he did. Takes the team to the playoffs. Gets to a Super Bowl and comes that close to winning a Super Bowl. And then last year, they fizzled at the end of the year, but they still got back to the playoffs. Right in there, they're 5-2. Nick Sirianni has went from laughingstock idiot, may not make it out of the first round of the playoffs, to genius. His team plays for him. His guys play for him. He makes ballsy, good decisions. Like, really underrated. He doesn't get enough credit. To he's a horse's ass, and let's get him out of here. So Doug Pederson, Nick Sirianni, it's like these guys are on the same track. Didn't believe in them, idiot. Super Bowl, idiot. Right? So where does it go here for Nick Sirianni? I have a really good feeling with this team and a really good feel for this team right now. I don't know if the rallying point of the season, we talked about it here on Philly with John Marks, that if the pivot point or the turning point of the season was the yelling at fans and completely having a bizarre press conference to where Sirianni got crushed for a couple days locally and nationally. Things like that can bring a team together. So if the younger players in the locker room, maybe it's even Jalen, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, the young players on defense, Brandon Graham, the veteran players, they kind of get this sense like, hey, coach is really getting a raw deal right now. He doesn't deserve this. This isn't right. That's what happened with the Flower speech from a couple years ago. And I talked to Brandon Graham about this personally, where he said that we felt like that he was getting a raw deal. He was getting disrespected because we knew what he was saying with the Flowers, and it made sense to us. So could this be the turning and the pivot point of this season? Well, here's the other thing that's happened. This defense is really good. This defense and this young defense is really, really good. And Jalen Hurts looks like the Jalen Hurts that we saw developing in 2022 as a passer. And, they have skill guys on offense that really matter. And now they have Saquon Barkley. So this has been a interesting couple weeks. But now, JP, you have the Jags. No one's expecting them to lose this game, and they better not. I don't even want to hear this being called a trap game, because if they can't put the Jags away, then I don't know what to tell you. And then you have the stretch of the season coming up where you have Dallas, you have Washington, you have the Ravens, you have the Rams. This is the gauntlet that we talked about last year. This is the gauntlet for 2024. And I feel pretty good heading into it. Let's talk on Monday after they play the Jags, but I feel pretty good heading into it, and I feel good as an Eagle fan right now.
No, you're 100% right, man. Like, obviously, they're coming off two really good performances, and you just want them to keep the ball rolling. And you mentioned it, the schedule is pretty favorable. So this is where you definitely want to get those wins before you have to go down to Baltimore or go over to LA, which doesn't seem, or go play the Commanders on a short week, which just doesn't seem like a very simple task here. But I love how the way you kind of open this up, because look, it's Doug Pederson. We all know who Doug Pederson is here in this city, right? It is crazy though when I think about it though, John, because in hindsight, like Andy Reid was here for 14 seasons, and this fan base, I still hear people say like, I wish we had Andy Reid right now, and it's like, were you there for 2012? Were you there for 2011?
I hate that as well.
It was going down. And listen, Doug Pederson did bring us that Super Bowl, but the one thing that really did kill him that 2020 year, obviously everything kind of imploded, but for him to come back for 2021, Jeffrey and Howard were like, okay, so what's your plan? What are the coordinators? And you're going Press Taylor and Burke, and they're like, yeah,
that's not going to work.
We're good. Yeah, well, we're going to move on from that. But it's funny because you bring up Nick Sirianni, and there's a lot of similarities with Nick and Doug Pederson. But I think the big one is, John, is the yes man, right? Like, that's the whole mantra. Nick Sirianni being the yes man, Doug Pederson back then, it was, can you be that yes man? And I mean, even look at it right now. Nick Sirianni, like, what is his actual voice within this team? Obviously, Kellen Moore runs the offense. Vic Fangio runs that defense. Nick Sirianni, don't F things up. And look, these past couple of weeks, obviously, we all make the joke about the bald head, but I just think it's a couple of things. It's actually realizing what kind of team you are, whether that be on offense, running the ball, or whether it be on defense, relying on those young players. And their confidence is just brewing because, look, they get some good wins, and it's just building up their confidence. And this week, you're right, John, there's no excuses. The Jags are a mess. I know it feels like they're picking it up, and Trevor Lawrence may, but at the end of the day, you should be able to handle the Jacksonville Jaguars at home, especially it's going to be emotional at the Link on Sunday too, man.
Sweep the leg, put them away early, and that's it. And the game's over. They did that the last 2 weeks. I had my feet up. I was watching Red Zone in the second half or in the fourth quarter. There was no worries. I'll take one more of those because you're not going to get them the 4 weeks after that, the 4 games after that. Not going to get them. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Let's get to the headlines.
Let's do it.
Sponsored by Glatt Hair Restoration. Bald's now optional. If you want to improve how you look and how you feel, Glatt Hair is the right treatment for you. Regain your confidence. Visit Glatt, G-L-A-T, GlattHairMCTR.com, or you can call. Speak to their hair team right now. Operators are standing by. Really, the hair team standing by. 610-980-4000. And to keep up to date with everything Philly sports and beyond, PHLY Daily, delivered directly to your inbox every morning. And I was just reading it before we came on. Rich Hoffman Jr., he must have had to spend extra time this morning.
He never stops.
Man, everything you need to know, and then some. And it's free. You can subscribe at allphly.com. And also right now, it runs through Tuesday. Become a PHLY diehard. It's $48. It's a savings of over $30-some. You get a t-shirt, and you get everything you need for Philly sports. Get it right now. It runs through Tuesday. allphly.com. All right, well, listen, I know JP was up late last night because he was doing postgame as the Flyers beat the Blues 2-1 down at the Wells Fargo Center.
Woo!
Bobby Brink. What a great name. Bobby Brink redirects a Joel Farabee. I don't even think it was a shot. I think he was just kind of putting it on net. With just 3 minutes left in the game, Flyers take the lead, and it was over. Sam Ersson shut the St. Louis down the rest of the way. There was a big save on Braden Shen, former Flyer Braden Shen, with 20 seconds remaining, 20 saves on 21 shots, as the Flyers have won consecutive games for the first time this season. JP.
That's right, man. Listen, dare I say, have they figured it out? And look, I think the big part of why they're kind of turning around, John, is just the defense has gotten better. Ersson made some timely saves last night, but the defense has really come up big. And when we talked about Cam York being down, who would step up? Rasmus Ristolainen. He stepped up. He's done a really good job of pairing up with Travis Sanheim at that top pairing. And the big reason why they had so much success last year, John, was they were creating offense off their defense. And they're slowly getting back to that. Now, St. Louis was coming into the game. They were averaging allowing 30-plus shots, almost 3 goals a game. And the Flyers didn't really put up too much shots. It was 21 shots that they put up, and obviously the 2 goals. But again, the same thing with the Eagles, they're putting together some solid performances. And when you're talking about a young team, you want to keep building that confidence. Oh, by the way, your boy Michkov got benched for a little bit.
I was just about to say that for a couple of shifts. Yes.
But Torts handled it great because, listen,
put him right back in.
Exactly. And the thing is that Torts understands his players. Michkov is not the same as Morgan Frost or Tyson Forrest or Bobby Brink. In that moment, listen, he turned the puck over. It was a terrible mistake. You coach him up on the bench, and then you put him right back out there. He gets it. And obviously, there's a little bit of a language barrier, right? But, dude, I just I like the way that he handled it last night because there are going to be coaching moments. He's still a rookie. I know we're all excited about Michkov, but he is still a rookie. But you like the way that Torts handled that.
Well, 4-6-1 now in the season. Let's get to Thursday Night Football. Jets get off the schneid. 5-game losing streak. They beat the Texans 21-13. The Jets trailed entering the fourth quarter. Touchdown passes to Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams got the win. Aaron Rodgers, 3 touchdowns, 2 to Garrett Wilson. Jets defense, though, with a great performance. C.J. Stroud, 11-30, 191 passing yards. 11-30, wow. Houston 6-3 on the season. The Jets, are they still alive? 3-6. They'd have to pretty much just lose 1 game the rest of the season, and I don't see that happening. I don't.
No, not at all.
So it was an ugly first half. It almost went scoreless, but the Jets appeared to break the scoreless tie. Rookie receiver Malachi Corey, early in the second quarter, he gets the ball in an end-around sweep, and he's running towards the goal line, untouched, touchdown. But you notice if you're watching in real time, was this a Deshaun Jackson from many years ago? And it's all right, well, did the ball actually cross the goal line? So then you had to look at the other angle. I think we have the slow-mo.
We do. I'll get you that other angle. But it's just so funny that Deshaun Jackson is now a term that from that Monday Night Football game.
From so many years ago.
Dude, look at that.
It's out. It's out.
Dude.
So it ended up going out of the back of the end zone for a touchback. And I know people are going to be like, why is it a touchback? That's not fair. No, that's fair. You should not have the ball after you do something like that. whether you do that or you fumble the ball and it goes out of the end zone. Tough noogies, as they say. It's not your ball. So he had a and my buddy Nick Costos, who does the You Better You Bet show, that's a national show on the Odyssey network. He actually had an anytime touchdown for Corey that he put out on the air that he did not cash in.
That's gotta suck, dude. If you put that bet in, man, and then you see that, oh my god, I'd break my TV.
That stings. No, like that's one of these things where like I would have to be in handcuffs. They would have to take me away in handcuffs as I was at the game.
Such a boneheaded move. I remember because like the Deshaun one, I was still in high school. I played high school ball around that time, and our coaches even like during practice was like bringing it up. I better not see any of you guys doing that out there. And it's like, come on, have some brains.
I know that you're trying to. I mean, what is it like? You're trying to be nonchalant, so you drop the ball or whatever. I mean, normally you would want you don't want them to over celebrate by doing too much in the end zone and then they get flagged. But in this case, I'd rather have you over celebrate and take the touchdown than drop it before you get to the end zone. But
dude, and it's so simple to score a touchdown. You literally just need the ball to cross the plane, and that's it. That's all you got to do. And then you can do whatever you want. If you want to really celebrate, you want to do the cha whatever. But just cross the ball across the plane. That's all it is, guys. Come on.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. So the Jets win. They get off the schneid. And they'll at least feel a little bit better. They'll have that long bye week. We'll have our picks coming up, our locks coming up here later on in the program. And 76ers, Joel Embiid. So Shams reported yesterday that he's been scrimmaging. It's amazing how now the Sixers have to put out information through the national outlets. And I wonder how much of this is now Joel Embiid, and that's coming from Joel Embiid's agent. But so he may play tomorrow night against Memphis. No one really knows, but he has been scrimmaging the last couple of days, 5-on-5. That according to Shams.
Yeah,
so we could see Joel Embiid back.
Yeah, and just quick heads up, guys. We had Keith Pompey on yesterday. He had some really good insights, so definitely check that out as we talked about this situation with Joel.
Yep. Yeah, he really made me think differently on everything, because he even reiterated, like, I think a lot of this has to do with Joel.
Yeah, I didn't think of that at all, but it's a good point.
I did, but like, I don't know. It's the dynamic between a star player like that and an agent, because you're dealing with the agent. You're not talking to Joel about any of it. So the agent is dictating it. And the Sixers, I mean, even though they just signed him, the Sixers are just, all they want to do is keep the player happy. That's another dynamic that is a major problem.
Yeah, man.
If you have Joel Embiid trying to control the narrative when it's like, hey, dude, you're hurt, just say it. And he's so sensitive that he doesn't want to say it. Anyway, Chris Franklin is going to join us coming up here in 3 minutes from NJ.com. Longtime Eagles and now NFL writer covering the Eagles, the Giants, and the Jets. He's going to join us coming up here. We'll get some update on injuries because you could have a slayless game coming up here on Sunday. Let's talk about Central City Toyota. That's right, Central City Toyota. My guy, Jamie Haverly, the general manager of Central City Toyota. Also, Uncle Jamie's college football locks of the week. Yes, he's my uncle. So you could say like, oh, well, he's your uncle. Of course, you're going to say great things about his dealership, Central City Toyota. By the way, they've been on Chestnut Street for 55 years in the heart of University City. Yes, I am going to say nice things, but it's not because he's my Uncle Jamie. It's because they're an amazing dealership. I've been a customer for almost 20 years. I got my first car. It was a Toyota Corolla, my first new car. It was a Toyota Corolla 2005. That's why I can timestamp it and know when I got it, right? And from there, I've had a RAV4, a Camry, a Highlander. My wife has had a Highlander, now a Sienna. My parents have had RAV4s. It's a family thing with me. But it's not just me and my mom and everybody that's getting great treatment. This is what they do. When you're in business for 55 years, guess what? You got to know what you're doing. And their whole thing, if you're looking for a new car, they have an amazing selection of certified vehicles. If you're on a budget and you're like, I need a new car, I don't have that much money, they have cars under $12,000, which are great, but they have a one-price approach. There's no pricing games. Everything's transparent and easy. So they're not looking, you walk in the door, they're not like, look at that sucker, I'm going to go take advantage of them. No, to the contrary. They know that once you get with Central City Toyota, repeat customer, repeat customer. And then you're going to take your car there to get serviced. Largest service and parts dealership in the city of Philadelphia. I'm going in on Wednesday. I need new tires for the minivan. Central City Toyota, they'll take care of you. If you work in the city, you can drop the car off Take the shuttle down. They'll service it, take the shuttle back up. They even offer a pickup and delivery service on an appointment basis if you're in the city. CentralCityToyota.com. 55 years on Chestnut Street. Online. CentralCityToyota.com. All right, Bet Parks. Listen, Eagles. 7.5-point favorites over the Jags. I would stay away from the game because this is one of these games where you could easily get backdoored. Eagles are up 13. They're cruising. Trevor Lawrnce gets a garbage touchdown with 55 seconds left in the game. Boom. Totally breaks the spread. So I would stay away from the game. But, it's a lot of interesting lines this week in the NFL. And we'll have my locks coming up later on in the show. But whether you're talking about pro football, college football, you're looking ahead to next year. I saw the Phillies. I saw some numbers on the Phillies for 2025 World Series. Whatever it is, it's the only sportsbook app that I would ever recommend. Bet Parks and the Bet Parks Sportsbook app and online casino. And when you're watching the games, hey, listen, do you like action? Live dealer, blackjack, craps, roulette, and more. And new users download the Bet Parks online casino app and sportsbook right now. Listen to this. $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. BetParks.com for details. Your casino bonus must be wagered, and you must be 21 and in NJ, PA, Maryland, Ohio, or Michigan. Gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, well, there you go. Eagles and Jags coming up Sunday, 4:05. Originally scheduled to be the nighttime game, and then NBC said, hell no. We don't want these two teams playing on primetime. To discuss that and everything else, longtime Eagles beat writer for NJ.com. Now it's like, man, we got to get him to cover more than the Eagles. So he definitely has an emphasis on the Eagles, but also the Giants and the Jets, as the Jets played last night. Chris Franklin of NJ.com joins us right now. What's up, Chris?
Nothing much, man. I'm so glad they changed that game. You have no idea. You know, but yeah.
I do, yeah.
With the Jaguars. Oh, no.
So Chris, once upon a time, when I was ending working at the Fanatic and I went to WIP, so this is like 2016, I tried to start a website called PhillyFootballTalk.com. And I did it, but then when I started at WIP and I had kids, I'm like, it's just too much work to keep this going. And I wish I would have kept it going, but I didn't. Chris Franklin was one of my young writers that was trying to get into the business that did a great job. And Chris, I remember thinking about you. This dude's going to work in the business. And now look at you. You're like an old veteran reporter. I see white in the beard.
Yeah, man. It feels a long time, man. But yeah, I got to give you a lot of credit, man, because you kept me going for a while. So I was getting down there. And yeah, man, when you kept that site going, and you're a great editor too. You were a great editor as well too. So I thank you from the bottom of my little Urkel heart. I thank you so much for that, man.
Of course. I haven't seen you. I've talked to you, but I haven't seen you. We were at the Super Bowl in 2022. We went to the media event. We did the bus ride together to the media event. And since then, I mean, it was a great Super Bowl. They narrowly won. They start out the season 10-1. And everybody's thinking, well, crap, we're going back to the Super Bowl this year. And then a historic collapse. And now 5-2. How do you feel about the team right now? Looking from it from a guy that's watched this team your entire life, and now you're covering them professionally. Does this feel like that they're back on track and this team is what we thought they were at some point last year?
Yeah, and it's getting scary because they're going on another streak again. Remember last year, 10-1. Start looking at Super Bowl covers, Super Bowl flights, like who could they play and everything. Next thing you know, you're in Tampa Bay walking out the tunnel like, this thing is really over. The heck? Y'all feel like you were 10-1. But now I look at this year, and I think they better win four straight after this week. And you look at the landscape of the NFC, and there's only one team you really think is dominant, the Detroit Lions. Everybody else has serious questions. So you're looking at them like, if the Lions get in the slump, maybe somebody knocks them out. Maybe the Vikings pull a rabbit out their hat again. All of a sudden now, you win the East, which you should, even with the Commanders and Jay Daniels doing well. You're the one seed. You're the team that is everything comes through Philly, and you should win here all the time. So, yeah, I feel like this team's back on track. I think they found their formula. I think they found their identity as much as, maybe Nick and some of the other people there think like identity's too overlooked. Yeah, they found their identity and they're going streaking.
It's interesting you bring up, and we'll talk about the Eagles more in a second, but when you talk about the conference, the Lions 100% are the best team in the NFC right now. Now, it's also the first day of November. We know a lot changes between now and when the playoffs start, but also they could end up being that number one seed that gets the bye week and then comes off the bye week, and you're playing a hot team and you're a little bit flat because you had the bye week. We've seen it too many times with that number one seed, and they don't have the playoff experience. I know they were in it last year, but still, like, this could be one of these years where a 2 seed, a 3 seed, or that hot team entering the playoffs ends up getting the NFC Championship game because the Lions get knocked out early. So I agree with you 100%. This is a really wide open conference. You just said the identity of the team. And I think we all wanted this offense to immediately have an identity and immediately to be humming and running on all cylinders. And probably looking back, it was unrealistic to think that. Jalen's still trying to figure stuff out. Kellen Moore's trying to figure out, all right, like, what do I really have? How do I use them the best? Because you can study film and you can watch from another team's perspective, but until you get in there every day, it's totally different. So what's impressed me and what impressed me the last 3 weeks was, hey, we're going to start to run the offense through Saquon Barkley, but also we're not going to stop giving him the ball like against Cincinnati just because it's not working. And they kept feeding him, even though it was getting 2 or 3 yards a chunk. And then they said, hey, we're going to beat you over the top. We're going to let Jalen make wise decisions. So to me, this has been very smart play by the players. Jalen hasn't turned the ball over. And Chris, Fangio and Kellen Moore have really, really started to come into their own as coordinators of this team. It like the complaints I had earlier in the year about Fangio not making adjustments during game, and the complaints that I had about Kellen Moore, like what exactly is he doing? Man, it feels good right now. It feels like these guys are starting to figure things out.
Yeah, it really does. And I felt guilty of this trap too, where the first couple of weeks where you're looking like, okay, there's new systems, especially with the defense, with a lot of younger guys, a lot of rookies that are playing in high leverage spots, second year players. It takes a while for that, especially that system, to get used to it. And I would love for every time we look at a box, they show the camera box of Vic talking. I love if there was a microphone because you can see like just to hear what he's saying, because it would have been interesting to see that. But the more and more you see that they're getting acclimated to it, the only thing, the pass rush is finally catching up in a way. It's not getting as much sacks as they should have because they're getting the pressure, they're getting the hurries. That's going. You wait for the turnovers start to come. Maybe that starts to come, and now you all of a sudden you have you have a top tier defense right now. Technically, right now you have statistically, you're like, huh? And I think you can this continue it. Like I thought before the season, as long as this unit was 15 or higher, that's all you need because you have the offensive pieces. You don't you need to be Gannon like without the sacks. The Gannon led one without the sacks. Then offensively, you look at this thing and they needed it beforehand. The gravity of the offense went toward AJ Brown. It went all the focus on him, and then we're seeing the Fangio type defense where they're not going to let him beat him deep. Yeah, it makes sense. Everything's cyclical in this league. Give the ball to Saquon Barkley, let him pound it down the field, get chunks 5, 6, and all of a sudden you're not putting Jalen Hurts and the rest of the offense in situations where it's second and 13, second and 11 with the wide receiver screen because we keep seeing that happen, stuff like that. So I think when you put it on that, you're opening more space for Brown, for Smith, for Calcaterra as of the moment right now, guys like that. And this offense is like, oh, this is what we expected. And that the perfect thing in before the year started as well, too. When you saw the bye week come in week 5, you're like, what's the early bye? That was the best thing that happened to this team because it gave them pause. They had to look at everything and go, you know what? Yeah, we need to change some things. And we're starting to see those changes come to fruition.
That's a great point. I actually hadn't, because you're right. When you look at the schedule at the beginning of the season, you want it pretty much halfway through or maybe even a little bit later so you can get rested and you can get ready for the playoff run or whatever. It really was they're 3-0 since the bye, and I know that it was the Browns and the Giants, but the offenses look different. So you had mentioned like Jalen, right? And him not turning the ball over. Kind of feels like we're getting back to the 2022 season. If you remember, I remember talking to Jalen Hurts. Ike and I sat down with him at training camp. And I had said to him, like, you play great this year. You're going to make yourself a lot of money. And he shook his head. He's like, yeah, I know what's at stake. I know that I know exactly where I am. I know there's a lot of people that are questioning whether or not I'm good enough to be somebody that matters in the NFL as far as a quarterback. And what you saw over that year was that he went from this being a run offense and everything needs to go through running and Jalen needs to run a little bit. By the end of the year in the Super Bowl, he had developed as a passer. He was confident. He didn't turn the ball over. He maneuvered around very well in the pocket. And you look at that Kansas City game, he threw the ball confidently down the field. He was great. He developed as a passer. I didn't think he could do that. And then you saw him take steps back last year. For me, Jalen Hurts, the passer, needs the confidence. And last year, the blitz, the rush, he had lost all confidence. He wasn't stepping up. He wasn't throwing the ball. I've seen the last 2 weeks a confident Jalen Hurts again. The ball that he threw to Devontae Smith, and he throws a good deep ball. Step up, confident, didn't think about it. Boom, let it fly. And Devontae made a great catch. It was a good throw. It was a really good throw. That Jalen can win a Super Bowl. That Jalen can get this team back to what was in 2022.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing was the blitz. Teams started adjusting, like they started adjusting, stopping the RPOs, and then it's all like, let's bring some pressure, extra pressure, and that was the biggest bugaboo against his game. Now all of a sudden he's working with Kellen Moore. They have an option to throw out for these things. Like you may see like a receiver doing like a quick curl or a slant, what have you, to do that. But Jalen's doing a really good job feeling comfortable with it, and now his eye level is not looking as much. It still happens from time to time. He's not looking as much going, oh no, I see this defensive lineman. I see this. I'm going to get sacked. What have you? He looks comfortable in the pocket. He's stepping up and he's throwing. And we've seen the only thing he needs to work on, in my opinion, is only his intermediate game, and that's starting to come around too.
Yeah.
Getting those when it comes to those digs and everything else, and you work in the middle of the field, he's starting to work with that a little bit. And you're right. When you look at the confidence, when he's confident, when he knows he has his offensive line and set and ready to go, he feels good. And the one stat I remember seeing there, he's in the top 10 in terms of when he has a clean pocket. And this team, they've had a lot of injuries in terms of the offensive line. There's a lot of tough people. You think like, okay, this is one of the top 2-3 offensive lines in the league. They've had their issues at times this year. You got a new right guard. You got your left tackle still, Jordan still has a hamstring injury. So there's been a lot of moving parts and seeing a little bit of pressure here and there. But when you have games like last week, when everything's clicking, he's still that quarterback. He just doesn't have to worry about the rush. And we're starting to see him feel more comfortable. You start to see him take more chances because he's got a clean pocket. So the 2 and 2 go hand in hand. Confidence in the offensive line go hand in hand. And you get good offensive line, got to get more confidence over the top.
Slay and Goddard did not practice yesterday. The feel to me is Goddard needs another week. Slay, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. But when you look at it, it's not like, Goddard obviously is good, although they've underutilized them over the years. But before you'd say with Slay, you'd be like, all right, well, that's a loss. Chris, I don't know, man. This secondary, these young guys in the secondary from DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell looks like an absolute stud. Blankenship has really developed into a good player. All of a sudden, when you look at this depth in the secondary, man, you have players that are going to be here for a long time with Mitchell, and DeJean just looks like, hey, you put me out there, I'll play wherever. Like, I'm good. I'll cover up. I'll be a safety. I'll be nickel, whatever. It's exciting. It's exciting to have young players emerging because they're only going to get better. Like, if anything, like, I think we know what the offense is capable of. I didn't know what the defense was capable of. And you're seeing these young players really performing. Shout out to Nakobe Dean, by the way, because I didn't believe Nakobe Dean would ever be anything after the last couple of years. He's been really, really good. So these young Eagles defenders are making me feel great about the defense.
I remember having a personnel guy tell me around the draft back when the Eagles took him that they thought that he may have been a one contract type guy. He's not playing like a one contract guy at all. He's playing the guy and they let him play more downhill. They let him do what he did best when he was at Georgia. And surprise, surprise, he's doing what he did at Georgia. He's shooting gaps. They're letting him blitz more in between the tackles, and he's getting effective pressure. And the one thing that I think the biggest thing I saw from him in terms of questions was coverage of him. When the Bengals, I think it was Moss, they put him out, split him out. They had Dean one-on-one on the outside, and he stopped it. That was a huge step in terms of his game. And I thought you see him playing well, him and Zach Vaughn. And then when you look at Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, I know it's easier for a defensive back to come in as opposed to like say a safety, quarterback, what have you, and get in there. I didn't think they would be playing this well this soon. I like look Mitchell has no fear whatsoever. And he'll talk trash and he'll let you know in terms of that. Like, the fact that you had at times you had him singled up against Jamar Chase. You see him go against some of the other top wide receivers. He has a thing. I love his
No
recovery speed.
fear.
No fear whatsoever. And you think a lot of times you see, say like Terry Arnold. When he gets beat, he starts to flail. He starts getting panic and starts trying to grab. And got if Mitchell gets beat off the line, he's got a recovery speed. He's in position. He's getting it. He's getting pass deflections. Some of them could eventually become interceptions, but that happens with that. And the Gene, I look at him and I think that's the tough. I think that's the more impressive thing for him starting. For him starting those last couple of weeks because A, you're coming off an injury. B, you're trying to catch up and get used to the system. And then all of a sudden, the slot corner, as you know, is the toughest thing to do because you got to talk to the other cornerbacks, you got to talk to the linebackers, talk to safeties, and you're playing a lot of space. And he's doing an extremely good job locking up guys in the slot. And we saw Jamar Chase, the Bengals did the smart thing because well, you got Darius Slay, well, you got Mitchell. Okay, yeah, let's put Jamar Chase on the G and see what happens. And he's did a good job there. So yeah, they got a very good future. You can't forget Keely Ringo too. Keely
Yeah.
Ringo's still playing good. They have a plan there in case say Slay leaves in the offseason, which could happen as well too with that number that's coming up. They have a guy that can slide in right now and play well, or they can draft a guy. I think Ringo though is a good option there. He's physical and he's got the speed, so they're set at that position for a very long time.
Howie with a couple of great draft picks, and then Bond. What a stat! Howie Roseman steal getting Bond on a 1-year contract. Dude's all over the field. You can't like. Sometimes stats can be misleading because guys, somebody's got to make the tackle. Somebody's going to make the tackle. You can compile stats. This dude all over the field, all over the field. It's been a great signing by Howie.
Yeah, yeah. And it's one of the things where I wonder if they went to say, you know what, hey, we like you here for a couple of years. What's it? Nah, man, I see what I can do. No, I'm going to freeze. I want my money right now.
Yeah.
No. So, but the way he's come, like he really has turned into the Van Ginkel. The way Vic Fangio used Van Ginkel last year, this is his Van Ginkel. The fact you can use him on the edge. There's some packages that I think I know we haven't seen yet, where you can use him. He can line up in all over the field. You can use an edge rusher. Is he blitzing? Is he dropping back in coverage? Which you're like, okay, wait, he was an edge rusher prior to that. But then you look back at his time in Wisconsin and you see his ability to be in coverage and work in space. He could do that as well too. But the thing I like the most about him is he's a sure tackler. The guy, okay, if it gets right in front of him, 9 times out of 10 he's going to make the stop and not allow yards after the catch. So he's been playing lights out, and you're trying to find okay, wait, this is too good. He's playing really well. Those young guys are playing. Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter are playing more effective. I mean, Nolan Smith is playing a lot
Playing
higher.
great. Yep.
Who's gonna be the one? Like you look around, like oh well, there's Bryce Huff. He's getting a little bit better rushing, but there's still issues there. But that's the only weak link you got in this defense, and they're relatively young. It's crazy.
Defense looks legit. Chris Franklin, NJ.com. His handle on social media, C Franklin News. Not C like SEE, the letter C. Franklin News. Chris, good stuff, man. We'll have you on again soon. I appreciate you jumping on.
I appreciate it. It's always great talking to you, man. Thank you so much.
All right, Chris. There he is. Chris Franklin, NJ.com. Excellent job. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Oh, I feel like Anthony. I'm getting all juiced up for this defense. Yelling and screaming about him. All right, we'll finish up with some locks and some other stuff as well. But we got to do a little talking about, let's do it right now, True Mark Financial. I'm a customer. That's right. I'm a customer. Was it last Friday or 2 Fridays ago now? I don't even know. But I'm involved in small business, so I need a small business account, right? I'm a small businessman, and I am a small businessman, but you know what I mean. And it's like, oh well, True Mark is a sponsor of the show, so why not go check out True Mark, right? Heard a lot of great things about him. Obviously, been talking about him for a while now, and man, I couldn't have been more impressed. Mary Ellen, the branch manager, and again, I went in and I didn't say like, hey, can you give somebody a heads up I'm going in there? No, I just stopped on my way home to their Audubon location on Trooper Road. And I went in and I'm like, hey, I need to open up a business account, business checking account. And they walked me through everything. I didn't have all the paperwork that I needed, which I was concerned about. they said, we'll get it. We'll help you with it. We'll get it all together. I left with a business checking account, debit card, everything, the TrueMark app. And Donna helped me with everything. And then Mary Ellen reached out to me afterwards and said, I'm a huge fan of you. I had no idea that you were in the branch. Thank you so much for coming in. So when you're looking for banking done right, TrueMark Financial is the place you want to go. Their mobile app's amazing. Whether it's a personal checking, business, maybe you want to get in the market for a new home or an investment property. Their mortgage specialists can offer you guidance on loan options and terms. And it really is. There was such a family feel, and it was such a warm. From the minute I walked in, everybody was so nice to me, and like you could just tell. Most of these people I know, Donna, who I worked with, and Mary Ellen, they've worked together for 15 years, right? Like, so there's a family feel to it. TrueMark Financial. All right, check them out. TrueMark.com/PHLYITY. TrueMark.com/PHLYITY. TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA as an equal opportunity lender. Let's send it to my guy, JP. JP.
All right, Johnny, thank you so much. All right, well, gentlemen, it's the weekend. It is finally here, and I know a lot of us are excited for some college football. Obviously, we have NBA and NHL action play. Obviously, Sundays for, that's right, our birds. But look, one thing, especially, we always talk about here, us media guys, like we're not handy whatsoever. And the one thing that I'm running into now is that, look, summertime, it was about mowing the lawn, taking care of the flowers, right? And now that it's getting chillier, you're thinking to yourself, like, okay, I don't have to worry about landscape anymore. No, because now living in this beautiful area, we got the beautiful leaves that turn colors, and now they're starting to fall. So now, guys, we got to pick those up. We got to clean up our yards. We got to clean them up, and we're going to everything we need for cleaning up the outside of our home. We're going to go to Ace Hardware. I'm going to go to my local Getzinger's Hardware down on Haddon Ave. At the Ace Hardware, they have great people. I'm there all the freaking time, getting everything I need for inside and outside my house. And for this weekend, to clean up my home, I'm going to be going to Ace Hardware right here in Haddon Ave. It's our local hardware store, and they have everything you need, including the person to fix it. If you don't want to fix it, right, whether it be that leaky pipe, the faucet's not working right, the dryer, it's missing a piece, right? Ace Hardware can bring you a professional to come on out. So what are you waiting for, guys? Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at www.acehardwarehomeservices to get your next project started today. Or, of course, you can go to any of the Ace Hardware. It's your local hardware store, right? So you can visit any of your local Ace Hardware stores, and you can, of course, get everything you need. And, of course, they have helpful people that will help you for whatever it is that you need. So, gentlemen, we got stuff to do this weekend, and we're going to do it with our friends over at Ace Hardware.
Thank you, JP. Thank you. Let's finish with our picks, but let's get to this right here. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything here. By the way, Bob Costas retiring from baseball, play-by-play. Like when it said he was retiring from baseball, play-by-play, he's not known as a play-by-play guy. He's kind of known as he can do anything at a very high level. Mr. Olympic. And I hate Bob Costas, by the way. Absolutely, positively can't stand him. I hung up on him on the air many years ago when I worked with Sean Brace because he's just oh my God, so
not
tiring.
A Costas guy. Okay.
So tiring. And like I said, he's an all-time great.
Right.
He's an all-time great. But he recently had been doing play-by-play for MLB Network and TBS the last couple of years.
He's great for documentaries. Like, I think his voice is soothing, but you're right. Like, I didn't need him for play-by-play, but if it was like a documentary piece and he's like the narrator, I was in on that.
Hey, he's Mr. Olympic. I mean, listen, this guy's an all-time. The NBA, everything else. I'm just like, he's 72 years old. Go away.
People agree.
This isn't like when it says he's retiring from baseball play-by-play, he's not retiring. He's still going to be doing, he's probably still going to do whatever. He's still going to be around. Like Al Michaels retiring is really like, that's a bigger story than Bob Costas retiring from play-by-play. Because he had done some play-by-play recently, but now Al Michaels is a play-by-play guy. That's pretty much what he does. So anyway, Bob Costas, I'm so happy.
Brent Musburger, when he kind of steered away, that was tough for me because, dude, Saturdays, even the Rose Bowl, would look forward to Brent Musburger. Oh, it's awesome, dude.
So I actually should bring this up with Uncle Jamie when he joins us.
Okay.
So, Uncle Jamie's dad, my grandfather, Pop. When I was growing up, it was the young kid. It was the height of the NFL Today. So the NFL Today was it was the pregame show on CBS, and it was the big one. It was the Big Daddy. So you had Brent Musburger, who was the host. You had Jimmy the Greek, who was like before his time as the odds guy. Irv Cross, former Eagle. You had Phyllis Joyce, who was also on that. And that was actually before my time. So Musburger wasn't even a play-by-play guy. I remember him as that. And my grandfather hated Brent Musburger. Hated him.
Oh man.
We used to sit down in like they lived in a split level house, and he used to lay on the couch and he'd be smoking a cigarette, and he would ash into his hand. And he would be like, he'd be like, "Would you shut up, Musburger?" as he's smoking the cigarette and ashing into his hand. And I remember, that's all I remember from watching football with my grandfather was he couldn't handle Brent Musburger. He hated him so much. So I interviewed Brent at a Maxwell Club. I used to do a broadcast before the Maxwell Club football awards, and I interviewed him. And I told him how I told him, like, oh, my grandfather, one of my first memories of you is my grandfather and watching you with my grandfather. I didn't tell him, like, hey, my grandfather, literally, if he saw you, probably would choke you. But Musburger was he reinvented himself after the NFL Today was over, doing the college football with Herbie. It's one of my favorite all-time broadcasts. Musburger and Herbie.
That's what I grew up on, John.
So if you had to give me one Brent Musburger moment from working with Herbie, what would it be?
I mean, it had to be any of those Rose Bowls that I watched. It was like Florida State, Oregon, or like a Wisconsin, TCU, like any of those Rose Bowl games. But also too, like, it was, Saturday night, you're looking at talking about primetime games, right? I would look forward to Brent and Herbie being on the call. It was always a lot of fun. You knew it was going to be a good game, and they were going to call a great game as well.
He made the game feel big.
He did.
You knew if him and Herbie were doing a game, that was the biggest college football game. Even if it was the biggest college football game, they made it feel bigger.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was all to say is that era just made it so soothing to watch these sporting events, and that's what I loved about it.
Musburger's awesome. But the first thing that comes to mind with Musburger and college football for me is the Catherine Webb thing, where he whoa, and her. It was just so funny. AJ McCarron's girlfriend in college, and they're showing her over, and she's with Dee Dee McCarron, the mom, and he got criticized for doing it. It was like, come on, it was innocent. He was having fun with it. Like, leave him alone. Like, you want to be a quarterback at the University of Alabama. Whoa! Like, he wasn't being creepy old man about it. He wasn't. It was funny. It was funny.
Something, man. I love it.
So the Musburger definitely is he's one of those giants, man. He is. He's one of those giants. Couple more things here. Do you see what's coming up here? They're having another alternate Monday Night Football broadcast. Do you watch the Manning cast, JP?
Every now and then I'll catch it. I just tune in more to the regular broadcast, though.
See, I hear a lot of people say this, and I understand it. If the game sucks, it's not exciting. If it's just a boring game, they'll flip over to the Manning cast because they don't want the analysis. I want the real analysis during a game. If I'm watching a game, I want to see the game. I want to, Joe Buck and Aikman are great. So I want to hear what they have to say. And if it's a bad game, man, I'm going to bed. I don't need to hear the Mannings. I don't need to hear the Mannings talking Bill Belichick or whatever they do. But it's also created, and now everybody's going to try to do it. They try to do it with Michael Kay and A-Rod.
Yeah.
They've created this alternate broadcast that it's really like the Manning cast was the first to do it. So I give them credit. I think they're great at it. I think Eli's very good. And I think Peyton is so talented. He would have been successful in anything that he did. This 100%. Dude's funny. He killed Saturday Night Live. I'm a big Peyton Manning fan. Anyway,
that real quick, John, because that's like a generational thing. Because like especially the younger generations, they enjoy that type of atmosphere. I remember when I was independent doing YouTube stuff, people would always ask me, "Yo, stream the Eagles game." I'm like, dude, I'm trying to watch the Eagles game. Like, I want to see it for myself. I don't really need like a fun type of broadcast. Yeah, I need a fun type of broadcast to watch these games. But it is generational.
It's interesting you brought that up because something that I've never done and never will is watch somebody else play video games.
I'm not into that either, man.
But you know what I mean? Like, that's a big thing. You get these Twitchers or wherever else they're doing it, and they're big stars and they make a lot of money. Isn't that really what the Manning cast is?
Exactly.
Like you're paying attention to the game, kind of, but Charles Barkley's on, Bill Belichick's on. These guys are horsing around and doing whatever else. So you're really tuning in for them. You're not tuning in for the game.
That's right.
But anyway, all right. So you will. I wonder if you'll be tuned in for this. The Simpsons Fun Day Football broadcast is coming to ESPN Plus. It's an alternate Monday Night Football broadcast. So here's from the press release. ESPN, Disney, and The Simpsons and the National Football League will premiere The Simpsons Fun Day Football Monday, December 9th, an animated Monday Night Football game transformed into real time into the iconic Simpsons using Sony's Beyond Sports technology. Adams Stadium in Springfield will host a fully immersive fan viewing experience featuring the Bengals and the Cowboys. Because that's the ESPN Monday Night Football game that evening.
Right.
So they're going to take the actual game and they're going to turn it into an animation with the Simpsons characters.
So like Nickelodeon, what Nickelodeon does, but more for adults, I guess.
So, but so I don't know, because what kid
Did you watch
likes
Nickelodeon?
The Simpsons? But what kid likes The Simpsons?
I mean, it's more for adults, right? It's more for like younger adults. Or
I was in middle school when it started. My kids aren't interested. They don't even know what The Simpsons is. They're not watching The Simpsons. The Nickelodeon stuff really was, it seemed like for like younger children. I don't know if this is. But Drew Carter does the play-by-play, reprising his role from the Toy Story broadcast. I don't know what that means. Mina Kimes and Dan Orlovsky, both described in the release as Simpsons enthusiasts, will be providing the analysis.
Oh, man.
The commentators will be animated in the style of The Simpsons. And
like the yellow figures, everyone's gonna look like that.
In pre-recorded bits and skits, Bart Simpson will align with Joe Burrow and the Bengals, while Homer takes the side of Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. Beyond that, Lisa, Krusty, Nelson, Milhouse, and Ralph will join Bart's side, while Carl, Barney, Lenny, and Moe will join Homer. And the Simpsons creators are writing animated segments that will incorporate Stephen A. Smith, Peyton Manning, and Eli Manning, and other ESPN figures, as well as pre-recorded segments with players from both teams.
I mean, look, it sounds fun, John. It definitely does. And I might catch like a couple minutes just because I'm like intrigued now. But dude, when it comes to sporting events, I don't need the extra gimmicks. I don't need the slime. I don't need Bart Simpson rooting for the Bengals.
That's a good game to watch too.
Yeah, exactly. So like, this is cool, and I get it. They're trying to attract everyone, and the NFL's become so much into the entertainment. I mean, look, last year, the whole Taylor Swift thing, right? But yeah, I just need my football the way it is, but I like it plain. It's like a plain slice of pizza. I just need my plain slice, just extra cheese maybe, but that's it. I don't need any extras, any extra toppings on there, guys.
Initially when I saw it, I'm like, just leave me alone. But then the more you read into it, this is really creative what they're doing.
It is.
I'm not going to watch it live, but I want to see what it looks like. I'll look at the clips.
Exactly. I'm intrigued, but I don't need to watch the whole thing. I need my normal football watching.
It's pretty interesting.
It is, man. What's next? Are we gonna go? We're gonna go Family Guy. We're gonna go WWE. What are we going next here?
You know what? That's a great question. What will they do next? But The Simpsons itself, I've never been a Simpsons fan. Never watched The Simpsons obviously I've seen it and I know the characters and things like that, but I've never been a regular Simpsons fan. And it's maybe the most popular TV show ever based on how many years it's been out. I was in middle school when this show started. Crazy.
Well, they predict everything too, John. So we'll see.
The kids used to wear a shirt. There was the shirt that had Bart Simpson and like the bubble said, "I'm Bart Simpson. Who the hell are you?" And the teachers and the kids would wear it, and the teachers would make him turn it inside out because of the language.
I remember that.
True.
I remember those days. Your teachers would be like, "Oh, what's on your shirt? You can't wear that."
Right. Now they have bigger things to worry about in school.
Oh yeah, dude. It's interesting times, man.
Well, listen. Let me give you the picks here, and it's an interesting week. A lot of times I'll see a game and I'll be like, well, that's screaming to take this side based on the line, but do I really want to do that? Like, for example, do I really want to ride the Colts this weekend? 5-point underdogs. I'm sorry, I gotta pull the picks up here on the BetParks app. All right, I have them right here.
Okay.
But do you really want to ride the Colts against the Vikings on the road?
Jersey, come on, John.
So they're 5-point underdogs at Minnesota,
mm-hmm.
and Anthony Richardson has been benched. The Colts, when Joe Flacco, who is now the starter, have actually been really good, and the offense has been really good. So yeah, I'm going to take the Colts plus 5 points. That's a light line. Why the hell are the Vikings, who by the way have lost 2 straight games, why are they only 5-point favorites? you'd think that they would be at least 7 or 8 or even 6. That's a Colt line. I'll take the Colts +5 in that. Cincinnati, we saw them last week. There's something missing from the team, but what's not missing is their quarterback and at least 2 of their wide receivers. I still think the Bengals are a talented playoff type team, and they need this win this week. If they can't blow out the Raiders on their home field, then I don't know what to tell you. I'll take Cincinnati -7.5 over the Las Vegas Raiders. So Bengals -7.5. And then the final one right here. And by the way, the Colts and the Vikings is a Sunday night game.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be able to watch that one in prime time. Lions and the Packers is the most interesting game of the weekend as far as the early games.
Yeah.
And it's also a division game. So a lot of times I want to stay away from that game, and I will this week. But I do like the Lions in the game. But the Bears last week showed me something.
Okay.
And it was a tough game on the road. They ended up losing the game. But it took a Hail Mary and more or less a lucky play for them not to get the road win against a very good Washington team. They travel to Arizona this week. Arizona's a 1.5-point favorite. They've been a pretty good team this year. They've been a surprise. I actually like the Bears on the road. Take the Bears +1.5.
Interesting.
Over the Cardinals. By the way, shout out to the diehards out there. Sorry,
you guys are the best. You guys are the best.
Did you do any picks or?
The 2 games that you mentioned, I had on my list too. I like the Bengals -7.5 over the Raiders. I definitely need to bounce back, and it's obviously been tough for them with all the injuries, but I think they bounce back there. And it's ironic because you had the Bears. I like the Cardinals -1.5 there in that game. It should be interesting. Cardinals have been up and down this year, but I like them after an emotional game for Chicago. I like the Saints over the Panthers. It's -7. And are we doing the Birds and Jags?
Give me your bird score.
All right. So Birds obviously beat the Jags. I mean, come on, guys. I have 34-7. I think that the Eagles will impose their will. They'll win the physical battle, and that's how they will run teams out of the link. So I got a 34-7 game for the Birds. Go Birds.
I don't know if I would call this a trap game. Classify this as a trap game. It does have a some aspects of a trap game.
For sure.
Really I think it's a look ahead game because the Jags come into town and they're not very good, and the Eagles have been on a roll a little bit. So I think it's very difficult to remain and stay up every week, especially after the way they played last week. They crushed the Giants. That game was over. They won a big game on the road against Cincinnati. This team is feeling pretty good about themselves. The offense is feeling pretty good. The defense is feeling pretty good. Everybody's talking about this week. There's no negative conversations. There's no, I like Jalen this or the defense that. And it's hard every week to be at your optimum, at your best. So I think it's a little bit of a sluggish performance this week by the Eagles. But I think when we speak on Monday, I think we're talking about an Eagles win. But I think it's a little bit closer than maybe many of us expect. I mentioned a backdoor cover before, JP. So I'm going 27-21. The Eagles win, but they do not get the cover. 27-21.
What'll be interesting in this week? So look, obviously Jags are not good. But defensively, they're actually not bad on the run defense, but obviously we all know what our rush offense is. So I definitely expect them to be able to run the ball a little bit, and that's just going to open up the pass. And the Jags are terrible on the pass defense, John. We got excited over that Devontae Smith bomb last week. Dude, I want to see them sling the ball around and see some more throws over the middle because it should be open, especially if you get that run game going early.
And getting the Trevor Lawrence and pressuring Trevor Lawrence is kryptonite. So I would expect to see some blitzes, some very
no weapons either, John. They have nothing for Trevor.
They're not very good.
No.
Not very good. All right, we'll be back. Shout out to everybody out there, all of our mad, what do I call them? Not the Mad Hatters, Mad Chatters.
Mad Chatters
on YouTube. JP, you've been great. I think it's Tyler back on Monday.
I have no idea. I'm going to figure out my schedule next week as well.
Okay. Well, if this is your last day on the show for this week, you did a great job. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Good fun, man.
Good 8 shows here.
You're a fun guy, John. And no wonder why people love this show.
Thank you. Everybody out there, have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday at 8 a.m., hopefully celebrating an Eagles victory.
Let's go.
Go Birds.
We'll see you guys next week. Go Birds.
We all silly like the mayor.